What's good, Knicks fans? The regular season is over. Your boy Dexter Henry back on another edition of New York Got Game. Yes, we are on to the playoffs. We'll play in first, but we know who the Knicks are going to play. They have played 82 games. Well, the Knicks actually played 83 games this season because we got to remember they were NBA Cup champions, but they will be playing the Atlanta Hawks in the first round. Many of us thought they would be playing the Toronto Raptors. That was not to be. It'll be New York versus the ATL in the first round. But what we're going to do on this episode, now that we're finished with the regular season, is we're going to look at what's really true about the New York Knicks. What do we learn from the 2025-2026 season? Do we still have more questions as the Knicks head in the playoffs? What questions did they answer? What questions did they not answer? So you know how it goes when we want to get to the truth. We are going to talk to my guy, Jarod Hector, contributor to TrueHoop. He is always going to give you the truth, whether you like it or not, because some of y'all might not like the truth that might be talked about with the New York Knicks. It's my guy, Jarod Hector, joining me now for the first time, I think, this season on New York Got Game. But Jarod, what's going on, my guy? How you doing?
I'm good, my brother. Feeling good. Playoffs are here. Well, as you said, play in first.
Yes.
It's funny, the regular season, I felt like kind of went by a little quick this year. I don't know. Maybe it didn't to some people, but it felt like it to me.
You know what? Everything seems to go by quicker as you get older. I'm not calling you old.
I'm old. I am old, so that's fine, but that is the truth.
Yeah, I feel like sometimes I turn around, despite you and I both do this, and we create content in this journalistic space around basketball, and we're like, yo, it just felt like October. And now it's April, and we're talking about playoff basketball. So, yeah, man, it goes quick. But look, the Knicks, Jarod, they finished with 53 wins.
NBA Cup champ. So y'all got y'all chip this season. You have a trophy. You won. I'm just saying you won a trophy.
You're out here trolling the people. You see, now I do want to say, and I say this, there's a couple of guys who come on the show with me, and we are all soccer fans, football fans, real football fans. Yeah. And we understand the value of having multiple trophies. And while I'm joking on you, I think I've said this. I think Knicks fans should take some pride in being NBA Cup champions.
Why not?
There's no shame. The Knicks now have a chance to go for a double, as they would call it in European soccer.
Look, LeBron, because the Lakers won the first NBA Cup, don't act like Bron didn't want to win that. He did, because he wanted to be the first one of those guys of that group to be like, yeah, I want it first. Like, it matters. Yes, I understand it's not the NBA Finals, but it is still a trophy. You won. And mind you, correct me if I'm not wrong. See, as I'm getting old, I forgot who. I believe they beat the Spurs in that championship, championship game. The Spurs, who were the number 2 seed in the Western Conference, you could argue the second or third best team in the league. Like, oh man, that's legit.
I agree with you. But again, we're both not saying that it is the Larry O'Brien trophy, but it does mean something. And the Knicks have a chance to get a double. And what a year would it be, Knicks fans, if they were able to raise 2 trophies in 1 year? Something no NBA team has done before. That might be pretty dope. Just saying. All right, but the Knicks, they won 53 games. Mm-hmm. That's a very good year.
That's very good. Listen, there are fan bases that would kill for 53 wins. Okay, literally kill. For 53 wins.
You know who would have killed for 53 wins about 6 or 7 years ago? Knicks fans.
You see? You see what I'm saying?
They would have been killing for 53 wins about that time. But they got 53 wins, right, Jarod? They captured the 3 seed. What's the real truth about this team? Are they a contender, or are they just a really good regular season story? I'm going to start with the truth right off the top. What's the real truth about this team?
The truth is, of course, they're a contender. They are exactly what their record says they are, right? To quote Bill Parcells, you are what your record says you are. 53 and 20, whatever the math is on that, right? They are a number 7 in adjusted net rating, 5th in adjusted offensive rating, and 10th in adjusted defensive rating. Dexter, by all those metrics, that is a contending team, because any team that wins a championship has to be top 10 in offense and defense. On the whole, the Knicks are. Now, as we know, the playoffs are all about matchups, right? It's going to be about who they play and all of that. But this is a squad that, as constituted, I mean, they went to conference finals last year. It would not be surprised if they got back there again this year.
Yeah, I don't think that would be a surprise with this team at all right now. So, okay, you got them in contender status because some people still want to question that. But I'm with you. I think they're a contender for the championship. But when you look at this team, Jarod, compared to last year, what has actually evolved? And no, because evolution is such a big part of the story, right? And then, but with that being said, with me asking that about what has evolved, what concerns have quietly followed them into the playoffs? Because it's not a perfect team by any means.
Yeah.
But so it's a two-part question. What's evolved and what concerns have followed them into the playoffs?
By my eye test, Dexter, nothing has really changed or evolved from this team, right? To me, they are still too heavily reliant on Brunson. Now, that's the gift and the curse, right? Where everybody talks about double-edged swords, two sides of the same coin, all those phrases, you know what they mean, right? Your biggest strength is also your greatest weakness, right? Of course, if I have Jalen Brunson, I'm going to lean on him heavily because he's one of the elite offensive players in all of basketball, right? That makes sense. Do they rely too much on him? I still sometimes think yes, right? Is there not enough diversity in the offense? Sometimes that is still an issue. However, this is a squad that now collective, KAT only last season and now this season, but as a collective, they've gone through this now the last 3 seasons. They know who they are in the postseason. So nothing has evolved for me so much from the squad. They still rely too much on Brunson. I'd like to see more KAT Brunson interplay like we saw towards the end of the season. I think that's going to be crucial, and we'll talk more about that later. But they're tested, and they're committed to what they do, Dex. They know who they are. They know how they're going to get their offense when it matters most, and that matters. And here's the thing. The last 2 seasons, their bugaboo has been the Pacers. That's who's knocked them out of the playoffs. We ain't got to worry about the Pacers this year, right? Because they ain't in it. That's listen, and I'm sorry, like people love to look at things like in this sort of like, oh, you know, memory is a funny thing. When we think it back over to, oh yeah, they were the best team from start to finish. I'm like, nah, that ain't how it went. Like, go back and look, right? You need things to break your way. You need favorable matchups. That's where all that shenanigans are going on today, right? Because people are playing with who they do and don't want to face in the playoffs because that matters, right? Like, of course, you want an easier road to get to the finals. Now, it ain't gonna be that easy. Ain't no Wizards, right? Ain't no Nets in the postseason, right? You ain't getting to beat up on the Jazz. None of these terrible teams, all right? But if your choice is to play the Hornets or, I don't know, somebody else, you're like, maybe I'll skip on the Hornets, right? Because they look a little frisky right now. I get it.
Yeah, matchups matter. I'll say this. I think I had asked Monica McNutt this when I had her on the show a couple weeks ago, which was about the over-reliance on Brunson, and maybe the offense being a little too heliocentric. I think that'll lead me to where I wanted to go next with you, because one of the things that has looked better for the Knicks down the stretch is the 2-man game between Brunson and KAT, particularly how they've been playing the pick and roll, which maybe Mike Brown was like, hey, I'm not going to show these cards this early. I'm going to wait a little bit, which smart coaches generally do. That's been a major talking point among the fan base. Jarod, is this, and when I say this, I mean the Brunson-KAT 2-man game, is that a true playoff level foundation? Or do you think it's something that defenses can scheme out over a series, even though most defenses around the league haven't really seen that much of it?
I think, a lot of this question comes from, I think not too long ago, there was some like body language being read from KAT on the bench and whatever. And people lose their mind about that stuff. Yes. I do want to say this, like, guys, the NBA season is long, man, 82 games. Sometimes dudes just aren't vibing for what it happens. Like, think about where you work. Sometimes you don't want to see your coworkers. Like, it just is what it is. These guys spend all season with these people on the road. It's a lot. And sometimes, you're just in a mood and you don't even want to mess with nobody. Doesn't mean that it's a harbinger for disaster or doom. But do I think the KAT and Brunson pick and roll or 2-man game is effective? I do. And I think it's still a work in progress, right? This is year 2 of it, right? We saw it last year. It went to the postseason. By the way, you did get to the conference finals. Remember, right? I think they'll be even better this year because you have those reference points to go back to. And yeah, there is something to be said about Mike Brown and not wanting to give away all your cards, right? You want to be able to have something else you can pull out of the bag to show teams that don't give them a time to scout and plan. Now, these are the best coaches in the world and, video departments and all that. So it ain't going to take people long to be like, okay, this is what they're running. Here's our defense. Here's our plan to stop it. But ultimately, right, there is a counter for everything and a plan to stop everything. Whether you stop it or whether the offense executes is literally about who executes better, right? Like that just really is what, and sometimes that don't even matter because these are the greatest basketball players in the world. Sometimes it's just great offense. Like KAT's going to hit a shot sometimes. Brunson's going to hit a shot sometimes. You can play perfect defense. It don't matter. They're going to hit, right? Like, but it's not about individually isolated moments. It's about over the course of the entire playoffs. Do you win those matchups more than you lose them, right? That's what it's about.
That's what it comes down to. I'm glad you said the part about I can't stand the body language police. I just talked about this on a recent episode without.
I get it because it's like, oh, and look, sometimes you're like, oh, yes, you would prefer your dudes not to be screaming at each other or like, of course, but it's also competition and dudes are heated. And also, man, but you in a fight with your partner at home or whatever, like you ain't in the mood to be hearing nobody say whatever the situation may be.
You know me because you and I have talked about this many times, even off camera and off air. And it was the point I was making in that episode with Brian, which is that you made it here too. It's like sometimes you don't like people you work with. And that happens at the moment, not all the time. Sometimes you go through stretches, and as you're bringing up here, it's just real life stuff that could be going on that could impact these guys. I never got the sense they didn't like each other. It was just, as you kind of put it, part of the process of what was going on here throughout a very long season. This is what's going to happen. It's a long season. So with all that being said, right, and you're right, if you're the Knicks and you've got this two-man game going with Brunson that looks better, Brunson-KAT, that looks better than it did at the beginning of the season or better than it did last season, we also talked about how you have concerns about the offense, particularly being maybe a little bit too heliocentric. How much do you trust the Knicks half-court offense when, as you and I know, the playoffs are a different beast? The game slows down. Everybody's game planning. These are the best defenses. How much do you trust the Knicks offense, half-court offense in particular, when the game slows down in the playoffs?
I mean, oddly enough, again, this is that same thing, double-edged sword, two sides of the same coin. I trust it a lot because you have Jalen Brunson and Cat. Like, so in the half-court, listen, that combination, you have two of the most elite offensive players in all of basketball, okay? Jalen Brunson is a pick-and-roll savant, okay? Cat may as well be, as he is self-proclaimed, and he may not be lying, the best shooting big man of all time. I want to be clear, big man, not tall person, but big man, right? So they're going to score, right? And they're going to score often. What I want to know is, over the course of the entire postseason, how much variation is there going to be in the ways in which they score? And to your point about earlier, will there be guys that scheme them out, that sort of thing? But they're elite, man. They're excellent. Brunson's an excellent shot maker, shot creator. I said about Cat and his shooting. And you know what, Dex? The Knicks also have smart off-ball players, right? Bridges, OG, Hart. Those guys cut and move well off the ball. And Hart's having his best three-point shooting year of his career, shooting 41%. Like, yo, man, like, if you're doing that, like, you'll be fine. Like, so I say all that to say, the Knicks will be fine in most half-court sets. The situation, again, is series, Dexter, as you know, the playoffs are long, but a playoff series is a small sample size, right? And so if you have two bad shooting nights, yo, man, that can mean you down 0-2, right? Now it's a problem, right? Because now you got to win 4 of the next 5, which, you know, math says that's generally not going to happen, right? Like, so So these are the things you're worried about, right? When you're talking about the playoffs.
So you just also talked about the other players, and maybe to answer this question, I'm gonna ask you, could be Cat, but it could be somebody else. But we talked about this team very reliant on Jalen Brunson, and as you said, that is not always a bad thing. That can be a good thing. So who is the most important secondary offensive creator on this team? And do the Knicks actually have enough secondary shot creation to win in the postseason?
Yeah. So it's funny, right? Because I think when you think of secondary, when you think of shot creation, I think most fans, most people think about another Brunson type of player, right? A lead ball handler or secondary ball handler that can initiate the pick and roll. And the Knicks don't really have that, right? It's kind of like a committee sort of thing. But that person who's that secondary shot creator is Cat. And it's Cat because he has the ability, Dexter, as you know, to be a dominant force where you're like, yo, we have to send doubles at this dude because he is a beast. Now, the thing with Cat is you're like, I wish he would do that more consistently. But when he does it and he's in that mode, Dex, you've seen it. We saw it in last year's playoffs. He had 35 and 14, I think, in that first game of the conference finals, even though they lost. Like, you're like, yo, we got to send help that way because I can't check this dude one-on-one. Double comes, swing. I talked about Hart. I talked about OG. I talked about Bridges, all these guys. Like, can they cut and move off the ball, right? So it's not necessarily Cat maybe initiating as a lead ball handler, but, double comes. All you're trying to do in basketball, as you know this, Dex, is to create numerical mismatches on other parts of the floor, right? Strong side, doubles coming. What does that mean? Weak side with a numerical advantage. Swing. Somebody's open, right? Like, that's what you want, right? The ball has energy. The ball moves faster than people can move. That's what you want, right? Can that happen? KAT knows the double's coming quick. Can his players move in the spots where he can see them? Quick pass, quick pass. We got an open layup. We got an open three in the corner. Those kinds of things. So, yes, I think KAT has to be your important secondary creator in that he forces teams to send help at him.
Yeah, that he will be important. He's been a huge topic of conversation on the show for the last couple of weeks. He's been highly efficient. You got to give him credit. He's been highly efficient and been playing well to end the season for the Knicks. So he's going to have to be the guy. And you're right. We saw flashes of that from him in the playoffs, particularly if he plays within the flow of the offense. That could be good. Now, defensively, the other part of the ball, sometimes I don't think it's talked about enough among
half the game
around the six teams. Half the game, right? You got to talk about defense. This team has shown flashes, I want to say, of elite defense, and we know they've been better since January when they had that terrible 2-9 stretch. The defense has been better, as you noted. They finished top 10 in defense and in offense. But what does it look like for the defense when it's right? And do you believe in the stronger late season defense that we saw from this Knicks team?
I mean, I think their defensive ceiling is what it was in the season, which is 10th, right? I don't know this idea that they have sort of another gear to get to defensively. What I think matters for them, Dexter, is point of attack defense, right? And so this is the problem with Brunson and relying on him too much offensively, because when he has to carry so much of a load offensively in the pick and roll, it's not that he's a bad defender per se. He's small, but he's exhausted, and not early in the playoffs, but late. Let's say that second round series against, let's say it's Boston. It's going game 6, game 7, right? Like, how much energy does he have to give the requisite energy at the point of attack, right? And KAT, can KAT stay big? The thing about KAT is he needs to be smart, and a lot of his defensive stuff is overblown. He actually was a pretty decent defender, net positive this year for the Knicks. You're huge. Just be big, right? Move your feet and don't commit stupid fouls, right? Like,
yes.
As my podcast partner, TrueHoop, David Thorpe, says, rule number 1, don't foul, right? Just don't foul.
Like, don't do that.
Don't foul.
Right.
Like, so I think, and you know, can you hide Brunson when teams start to look to him to target, right? Pre-switch and do stuff like that. And I think, again, Mike Brown, the coach, is smart enough to figure that stuff out. That's what I'm thinking for the Knicks. But I do think defensively, there is a ceiling for me. Their gear in the playoffs is going to be offense. That's going to be the thing where I'm like, oh, if they have a day where like they're hitting, for instance, 15 threes or more, I'm like, well, they're probably going to win that game, right? Like, so that to me, the ceiling for them is their offense. I think their defense is pretty much going to be capped out at a certain level, but I think offensively they have some heights they can get to.
So that's funny, because I was going to ask you about not necessarily if they have another gear, because I might be inclined to agree with you, right? Like, they're about what you saw them in the regular season. Now they got into that metric that puts you in that championship contention level of defense, right? And we even saw the Denver Nuggets win a couple of years ago. Now, granted, I understand they're the best player in the world, Nikola Jokic, but they got to be a top 11 defense.
Right. They weren't world beaters on defense.
And they played better defense from the second half of the season on, which got them rolling to where they were playing competent. Let's just say that competent defense. Do the Knicks have a true defensive gear or a competent defensive gear that they can hit in a 7-game series? Or do you look at that as still a question?
No. Again, that top 10 defense, that's the gear, right? That is the baseline. I think the question is, can they play that consistently, right? And again, this is why it goes back to, see, the thing about basketball, unlike other sports, because players play both sides, unlike in football and other sports like that, the offense bleeds into the defense so much, right? And the ability, when you make shots on the other end, guys are, it's defense is so much more, and it shouldn't be this way, right? But that's just human nature, right? Like, it's so much easier to you know, to lack of a better phrase, to nut up, right? And guard when your shots are falling. It's when the shots are not falling and things aren't going well. Like, oh man, don't want to run through the screen hard. Don't want to. Those kind of things start to wane a little bit when you're not making shots, right? But yes, their defense is there. Again, it's 10th overall. I think it's more than good enough to get them to the conference finals. But as I said before, their offense, to me, Dexter, that is the gear. They were the number 4 team in terms of 3-point shooting percentage in the league this year. And I believe the stat was when they made 15 or more threes, they were like 32-8 or 31-7, something like that, right? So to me, that's their magic number. There are some games where they're making 15 or more threes. Those should be games they win.
It's funny in the games when and there's going to be a game or 2 or 3 or whatever may come in the playoffs where they don't hit them 15 threes, how they're able to generate offense or get stops, which is just as important,
Yes,
is going to be very telling in their ability to have a chance to win that game or not. Because can you win some of those games when everything isn't going the way you need it to, right? That's the mark of
a true
real
championship
teams.
Yes,
Right, of
and
championship
that's
teams.
yes, and that's the thing about when you look at a team like OKC, for instance, right? It don't matter if shots are falling or not. You know what their identity is. They're going to cause turnovers. They're going to they're going to fight because eventually it'll come back around. And so, do the Knicks have that requisite ability to stay the course despite shots not falling? It's hard, right? Think about it. You go 6, 7, 8 possessions in a row and the ball's not, and again, in the postseason where the possessions matter more, right? And your margins are thin. Again, you're not playing the Wizards. You're not playing the Nets. Okay. You're playing legit NBA teams now who are trying to win also. Then you're like, oh man, like and it's just pressure, right? Everything tightens up. Just that top button gets a little bit like, all right, like you feel it. You feel it.
Yeah, man. No shade out there to the Wizards and Nets fans who might be watching this. No shade to y'all. But
your team ain't trying to win. Your team was trying to win. I mean,
you know who you are. You understand who you are. When you look at this team, right? A word that gets thrown out, I'm sure you'll hear it come up. You guys will talk about it on TrueHoop. X Factor. That's the thing we like to talk about in playoff series. Who's the biggest X factor on this roster? The guy that swings the series if he plays well. Who's that guy for you on the Knicks?
So I'm going to kind of cop out and go with the easy one with Josh Hart. And I say it because, again, career year from 3, 41%. So
can I push back on that for a second? I'm not sure that's an easy one. Because but I'm going to let you finish. Just because there's been so much variance with his game. Career year shooting the ball, right? But the thing about him, Jarod, and I know you know this, is the willingness to shoot. Yeah, which is the big thing with him. He sometimes can get in stretches where he's not as willing to shoot. Yeah. If he is willing to shoot, I don't disagree with your answer. I just don't. I just want to give you props. I don't think that's necessarily the easy way to go.
I appreciate that.
Yeah,
it is because I don't think it's in his nature, right? Because everything he does, all the other things, Dexter, he makes winning basketball plays constantly. And that's what you need. Those late offensive rebound, tip-ins to say, again, in the playoffs, the margins are thin. It is a possession battle. You are trading possessions for points. And Hart giving you those extra possessions to get that tip in or that extra kick out, those things are huge in close games. Again, may not be in round 1, although we'll talk about that in a minute. And that Celtics series potentially in round 2 or in the conference finals, like those things are going to matter. So yes, his willingness to, hey, if they're going to sag off me in the half court, step up and shoot that thing with confidence. Again, to force the other team to now say, hey man, we can't do that sag off thing. Now we have to come up and press him. Oh, great. Come up and press me now, because now that means Cat now single posted. Jalen Brunson over here. We can do different things. So Hart to me matters. The other person I'm going to throw out there, I know you only told me one, but a second.
Now go ahead.
Is Mikal Bridges. And to my eyes, Dexter, he has not been consistent this season. It's just
you were not wrong there.
Up and down, and I'm like, bro, like, what is your deal? Like, I it's just this kind of like, I'm like, ooh, Mikal feeling it today. The other day, it's just like, oh, if he's not feeling it, what is he doing out there, right? And so, I think if he can find consistency, that would be a big thing. And I don't mean 20 points a game. I just mean, man, you get 3 open threes a game. Can you hit 2 of those? Like, you know what I mean? Like stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Like it's just I just want a level of consistency from him. And what I worry about with him, Dexter, is everybody applauds him, and I do as well. The man has not missed a game in his entire NBA career.
Yep, that is another 82 game season he's played.
Correct. That is something to applaud. However, that takes its toll at some point, Dexter. Like, energy isn't finite; it runs out. Okay, and so for a guy like him, and it doesn't like when he gets on the court, he takes it easy. That dude plays hard and he guards. Like, he only has so much juice in the tank, and so I wonder if a lot of that is starting to catch up to him. Not so much an injury, but his inability to stay consistent is because he's just tired and needs to take like 6 months off, from basketball.
I wonder that with him because it's funny. I felt like he would have been the easy answer, and I think it might be a lot of people's X factor answer to that question because of what you said about how inconsistent he's been or how he's disappeared in games at times. Now that could also be energy related. Energy is not finite, as you said. There could be some of that too. So it's interesting. I like the Josh Hart answer. I think his ability, how he plays, how defenses play him, and how he attacks them when they play him is everything for the Knicks, particularly on offense. Yep. I completely agree.
And it's not just shooting, right? It's okay. You shoot a couple threes, they come out and run at you. You drive by, right?
That's why I said attack. Yep. Like, That's why I use the word attack, right? Because it's the choice. It's will you let the three fly if you're open? If they press up on you, are you going to put the ball on the floor and attack? You just want him to be, I know this word can be used, thrown around a little too much, aggressive or aggression.
Decisive. Decisive.
But decisive. I like that. There we go. Decisive. That's the word I like. Not aggressive, decisive. I love that word for him. I think if he's decisive, I think that's huge for him in the playoffs. Now, look, at the end of the season, we saw it in the recent game against Boston last week. He was decisive in that game.
Sure was. Played well.
It was one of his best games I thought he played this season. It was. I know people are going to say, well, Dex, he hit 5 threes in that game. It was more than that. The first half of that game, it's really a tale of two halves. He wasn't as decisive, Jarod. He was hesitant. In the second half, he was more decisive. He made his good reads when they threw guys at him. He drove to the basket. He set other guys up. And when he was open, he took the shot. I know that sounds simple, but it's so key for the Knicks.
Part of the thing I think fans need to understand, Dexter, is that certain players are wired certain ways. Josh Hart is the ultimate team guy in the way that he plays. And so he's not wired to jack up shots right? Because in his brain, that is not team ball, right? I am not helping the team by doing that. And so what he has to do is sort of fight against that nature of like, it's like, no, you are actually helping the team, because if they are sagging off you, what they are telling you is we don't respect your offensive game. So in order to help the team, I have to be decisive now. So that forces them to respect my offensive game. So now that everybody else can do what they got to do, right? And that's Drew Holiday, like players like of that ilk, right? Who dominate. Because the thing about basketball is everyone loves the guy who just wants the ball all the time and throw up shots, right? Because that's what everybody imagines themselves to be, right? When you're in the driveway, you don't pretend that you're Mikal Bridges, right? You pretend you're Jalen Brunson. Everybody wants to jack the ball and take up shots because that's all the fun stuff, right? That's the guy who gets all the girls or the dudes, whatever your flavor is, right? That's the thing. But these guys are like, I'm not wired in that manner. That's not how I've got to do all these other things. But it's like, hey, man, if they know you're not going to do that thing, they're going to play you to not do that. So you have to say, oh, you think I won't? Okay, let me show you. I will do it. And now that forces you to do something different. And now that gets everybody involved, right? So it's just a different way that these guys are. They're not wired in that way. That's not how their brains operate when it comes to basketball.
No, it's different, right? Different personalities matter and how they execute. But I love that word decisive for Josh Hart. I think that's a word I will be looking to use a lot with him through this playoff run. A couple more things with my guy, Jarod Hector of TrueHoop, here with me on New York Got Game. Jarod, I've been really, really wanting to talk to you about this because people who are fans of the show will know the first time you came on the show with me in studio, one of your truths about the Knicks back then, I think this was during the 2023-24 season.
Yeah, not last season.
I want to, if I'm correct. You were somebody, and I do not want to say Jarod is minutes police because he was not that. Police.
I just,
But Jarod was somebody who taught, and we would have a lot of conversations about this across the NBA. You have to manage the minutes of your guys. You cannot burn out your guys through a regular season. We talked about this a lot with the former coach, Tom Thibodeau, and then the Knicks changed their coach, and they've had Mike Brown. So my question to you is, what do you think about the job Mike Brown did in year one? What has he proven to you in year one with this group? And what do you think? Because he's ultimately going to be judged about this because he was brought in for a guy who got the team to the conference finals, 2 wins away from the NBA finals.
Yeah.
I've said it this year. Everybody else has said it. He's going to be judged on what he is going to do in the playoffs. So what has he proven to you in year one of this group in the regular season? And then what does he still have to show you in the playoffs?
Well, he didn't prove anything to me. And he doesn't have to prove anything to me because he's a good basketball coach. You don't got to prove shit to me. Who am I, right? Like you don't got to prove nothing to me, Mike Brown. The thing is, it as you mentioned, it will be about the postseason. That's how fans and the media and everybody will judge him is how the Knicks do in the postseason. Now, of course, that is a little bit unfair because, again, it's about matchups. It's about a variety of different things go into it. What I will say, minutes have been down for your top guys, which has been good, right? They're still playing, but they're not logging 38, 39, right? Like the minutes totals are down, which is a good thing. What I want to know is in the postseason, one of the things that I always criticized Tibbs for was his intransigence, right? And his inability to be pragmatic. He had a philosophy of how things were going to go, and you got to just do it harder and better than the other team, and that's what's going to get you over the top. And okay, sometimes that's true. Other times, hey man, you got to be more pragmatic, and if something ain't working, you have to go to something else. So I want to know during his time on the bench in Golden State next to Steve Kerr, and I don't want to make it seem like, Kerr was the guru that like knew everything, but how much did he soak up from his time in Golden State from a staff that is known to been, to a certain extent, although, of late they've gotten a little bit more sort of, repetitive and stuck on their ways of willing to try different things and innovate, right? So if someone on the bench comes to him during the playoffs and says, Coach, I know it's small sample size, but this lineup is looking good. And if that lineup and that data says that's something you should go with, but it goes against what his gut is telling him, right? Is he willing to be brave enough to make that call, right? In a series where we got to shake something up and do something different. That's what I'm going to be looking to see. Does he make those subtle tweaks and subtle changes? Are you willing to go against type, go against your gut? Because this data is telling you, you know what, this might be something that works, right? How much pragmatism do you have versus being dogmatic and like, nah, this is just how we're going to roll with things?
So for me, that's been the thing I've liked about how he's managed, and I'm being very clear here, the regular season. However, will you be that malleable in the postseason? That is the question for me, right? I'd like to see that. My gut says to me, he will. I think he will. And I think I don't have to say this about you because I know how you think about basketball and I think about basketball. I hope for the Knicks fans out there, it's a breath of fresh air. Mm-hmm. But that leads me to my next question. Because there's always two sides of this. Sure. You and I very much about the pragmatism and the malleability. Some people are more about the rigidity. Okay? Yeah. Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't have a base standard of what your rotation is.
Of course.
Not what I'm saying. So I want to ask you, Jarod. Mm-hmm. We know there's going to be a base standard for the rotation. It's going to be an 8-9 man rotation. Mike Brown this year has generally played 9.5. Mm-hmm. That's generally been his thing he likes to go with. Maybe a guy that plays 4 or 5 minutes in the first half, steals some minutes for a guy. So he's technically going 10, but it's really 9.5. Okay. So you got your starters. You got Brunson, Bridges, Hart, OG, and KAT. Coming off the bench, I think this will be your next four, and we saw this over the last couple of games. You got Mitchell Robinson, Landry Shamet, Deuce McBride, right? Those are your three that I think you're going with, and Jordan Clarkson has now gotten time.
Those are my 9 I have right here.
Okay, so those are the 9 you have. Before we get to the malleability part and who could come in and be 9.5 and maybe 10 or anything like that, how do you feel about that 9? And do you think that 9 is optimized for playoff basketball?
You get into some trouble when you get towards 8 and 9, right? And it's because of size limitations. Well, yes.
I thought you might say that.
Yes. Okay. Of one of those limitations being size, yes. Right?
Okay.
One of them being size. Yeah. The other limitation being when you do go with your only size being Mitchell Robinson, you are essentially playing 4-on-5 offense, right? Because unless it's a lob at the rim and all that, like, what is Mitchell going to do offensively? Not offensive rebounds, all that, but he is not a threat to do anything offensively unless he's right next to the rim. So there is that. But if you decide to go small, we're going to shoot, you're going to get pounded on the glass. Now, talked about Josh Hart, OG's out there. You got guys who can rebound, and that we have to be more of a collective and a team thing. So it's, again, Dexter, it's about, for anything, people love to think that championships are won by individuals, right? And it's got to be a collective, man. The sum has got to be greater than the individual parts, right? And so when you run those lineups out where they are smaller and you don't go with Mitchell Robinson and you decide to go for more offense, more threes, more shooting, as a collective, you got to gang rebound, right? Everybody's got to crash. You got to, right? Make sure you know your defensive assignments. All those things that are cliche and we say ad nauseum, right? But yes, when you get to 8 and 9, you have limitations, right? And, for Jordan Clarkson, I know he's a fan favorite from so many. But Dexter, he has the ability to potentially win you a game because he can go nuclear. But my God, can he also cost you a game, right? And in the playoffs, losing one game, that matters, right? It ain't the regular season where you're like, all right, we lost on Tuesday night, cool. That's one down, right? Again, you have to win 4 out of 7. You take away 1, okay, we only have 6 now to get 4, right? You see, the math isn't working in your favor. So how much do you want to depend on a guy like that who's too Jekyll and Hyde for me? Some of you younger people may not know what Jekyll and Hyde is, but you should look that up. Like he's a little too Jekyll and Hyde for me.
He's been better towards the end of the season. He was out of rotation. He reinvented his game. I like how he's been giving a little bit more effort in defense. I'm with you in that I think he could win them a playoff game. I think there's a game to be won where there's going to be.
We've seen him go nuclear, so I know he could do that. My question is, in that game where he doesn't go nuclear, what is he?
Or he's the opposite of going nuclear, right? Like he's on a 2 of 10.
And he's a sieve on defense.
That's a problem.
Again,
that's a problem.
This isn't a regular season game where you're like, all right, whatever. No. Like in those minutes, we were outscored by 10. Now we're going to lose the game, right?
Like you, I like the 8 to 9 man rotation. Okay, so here's where we combine the last 2 things we just talked about. My thing, Jarod, is how much is Mike Brown when it is necessary because it's just something he sees in the game. The data is called upon. Like you're looking at the data and what you've seen and whatever sample size, and you're trusting that, or it's just sometimes your gut. You're just like, hey, man, right here, we need some more size. Muhammad Diawara is a rookie who we gave some minutes to this year. We've seen him come up in some good spots. He's got some length. He's got I know you're a guy, you like players with 6'8" and up and can give you a little bit of shooting. I know that's your guy, right? But you might need that if you're the Knicks, because when we talk about that, even though you said we feel good about this, Mitchell Robinson's your only size. He's limited on offense, like you said. The other good coaches might also hack him. Joe Mazzulla.
Wow.
We know this, right? They might do a little
hacking. 60% from free throw line there?
Mitchell Robinson shooting 60%.
Is he a 60?
Knicks fans could only wish. They could only wish, sir.
Is he under 50?
Yes, sir. He was under 50. I'm going to double check on what he finished at.
I don't know why I got 60 in my head. I thought for some reason, I probably was watching a stretch where like he was making some, and I was like, oh.
There was a stretch when he was making some, but I can tell you for sure he did not reach 60. I just want to make sure I get the right number for people in what he finished with, but he did not finish at 60%. Jarod, Knicks fans would die for 60% from Mitchell Robinson right now. He actually shot 40% from free throw line this year. 40.8%.
God. And listen, okay, you see, you said it right there. Smart coaches. Joe Mazzulla Joe Mazzulla will do that in the first quarter.
Yes, you've seen this movie before.
Because this is the playoffs and possessions matter. Joe's got guys that he can happily run up their 6 fouls because he's like because we have a bench, we have a bunch of guys that we can play and do all this whatever, right? Like, cool. You get Mitch to the line, that's freebie points for you. 4 out of 10, which means there's gonna be plenty of trips where he gets 2, he gonna miss them both, right? Yeah. Like it's just how it's gonna go. And again, if the game is tight, again, people have to think about points later in the game mattering more than points early in the game. Man, at the end, it all adds up the same. 2 points in the first quarter worth the same as 2 points in the fourth. All right. It all counts the same towards your total. So all those missed free throws,
but that's the point where you're talking about the pragmatism and the malleability that we were talking about, because those are the points to me, Jarod, that matter. If that situation happens, what you just said, first quarter, second quarter, whatever you want to say, if that happens, what's Mike Brown going to do there? Because now you're killing the offensive value of the Knicks. You just talked about how you think their offensive ceiling, to the point you said that's the truth about them. Their offensive ceiling can get higher. Well, now you're that's less points per possession that you have a chance of getting every time you go down the court. That is also, you talked about too. I want to just I'm bringing it back. You talked about how the offense, sometimes can impact the defense. So now you're going down the court, guys are not getting touches. Guys are not getting a rhythm. You're not even running any sets because Joe Mazzulla is ready to say, I'm going to pull this guy off the bench and have him, hack a Mitch because he's willing to use those 6 fouls. Now, what's Mike Brown's counter for that? Listen, I'm not saying that Mike Brown hasn't thought about this. I'm sure he has. He's a good coach. I'm sure him and his staff have. All right, you can go to Mo Diawara then, get a little smaller, stretch things out, force the Celtics to make another move. Again, I'm not saying this to rag on Tibbs, and you weren't doing this either. Right. But if we're keeping it a buck, people, this is not what we saw from Tibbs. We didn't see those counters till it was too late. No, we didn't see DeLon Wright and Landry Shamet against the Pacers till it was too late.
Yeah, you gotta be willing to make those moves earlier, much earlier. The other thing too, that matters here, Dex, is Cat's got to stay out of foul trouble. Like that, like that's also a big piece of this, right? Like,
well, that's big in how you use your rotation. I agree,
right? Because he gets in the foul trouble, and he's still sometimes prone to get those stupid fouls. And you're like, oh, what are you doing, right?
Right.
And now you picked up 2 fouls in the first quarter, and we're like, bro, like, come on, man, like
that can't happen. Can't happen in the playoffs. I agree with you. Nope. It can't. Okay, a couple more things because let's move on to playoffs. We know who the Knicks are going to play in round 1. They are going to play the Atlanta Hawks. My question for you, is this a favorable matchup for the Knicks, or do you look at this matchup against the Atlanta Hawks as a sneaky problem? What do you say?
I think they should win it. I do think the Raptors probably would have been an easier time. I think the Hawks will present a certain level of challenge for them. I know that they just beat the Hawks recently, if I'm not mistaken. But look, Nickeil Alexander-Walker is an excellent player. The Hawks have been playing decent ball, right? So, and they're going to be excited to be in the playoffs. Like, if I'm the Knicks, I'm coming in the game sharp. Let's put it that way, right? I'm not messing around. Like, and the Hawks can guard as well. Like they finished the year well defensively. So if I'm the Knicks, I am making sure I'm showing up with. I'm taking the Hawks seriously. I'm not just, guaranteed win, but they should advance. This should be, if this takes more than 5 games, I'd be surprised.
Okay, Knicks at least in 5. I would be inclined to agree. I think I haven't officially made my pick, but I think that's probably what it's going to be. I respect the Hawks. I think they play tougher. I think they have a good defense. I will dive into the film later this week. We will have plenty of time to do that. I think they played a good game against the Knicks. That was last Monday. You were talking about the win they had. Knicks. I thought it was one of the Knicks' best road wins of the year, actually. Hawks are good. They're not going to. I think the Raptors would have been an easier matchup. I don't know how you feel about this, Jarod, but sometimes I'm like, maybe a first round series where somebody pushes you just a little bit. I thought that was good for the Knicks last year against the Pistons.
Yeah.
I think sometimes fans want the easy matchup. It's a fine matchup for the Knicks.
Yeah.
But you do want to get pushed a little bit sometimes.
And I think you want to be sharp, right? And I think the Hawks will force the Knicks to be sharp. But when they execute at their best, they are a better team and they will beat Atlanta. And I think going into what their second round matchup would be, which I believe would be the Celtics, assuming the Celtics win their series.
Correct.
And I know Knicks fans will be like, "We own the Celtics." I'm like, okay,
own. That's a bit much. It's a bit much.
Listen, you know how y'all Knicks fans be out here talking on these internet streets. I would just say caution. So I think you want to be sharp heading into that Celtics series because whether the Knicks win it or not, I think that series is going long, right? I think it's going 6 or 7. So. And with Tatum back and Brown played well this year, and you know what the Celtics are, right? So, yes, and they'll feel some kind of way about being knocked out by them last year. There's no bad blood, all the things that we know. So, point being is that's going to be a barn burner. Strap up, right? And so I think the Hawks are a good way to get themselves ready for the Celtics.
I'm inclined to agree with you on that one. Okay, last thing for me here, Jarod. What do you think, since you are the guy from TrueHoop, what's got to be true for the Knicks to make a deep run? And what's the one thing that you also think could derail the Knicks from making a deep run? And by deep run, I want to be clear. I keep clarifying this for
very
people.
Clear what deep run means.
Yes. Deep run ain't to the second round, people. It's conference finals or later.
Okay.
That is deep run. I just want to be very clear on what that is. So, Jarod, what's got to be true for them to make a deep run? And what's the one thing that could derail it all from them making a deep run where maybe they lose in the second round? That's what
I mean, they went to the conference finals last year. So again, as I said to start the show, that's where if they get back there again, that should not be a surprise to anybody. It's about health, Dexter. Honestly, injuries I think will derail them. So that's what they need to not happen. They need to have injury luck in their favor, right? On both sides, meaning they avoid injury luck and wouldn't hurt them if their opponent had some bad injury luck. Newsflash, it happened to you last year against the Celtics. Now, Knicks fans are going to holler at me, be like, oh, we're going to beat them anyway. Maybe you were. Maybe. Point is, it didn't hurt that they lost their best player or second best player, however you want to argue who Jason Tatum is. So, yeah, I think injuries are the biggest thing. And I think that getting to the conference finals, I don't think will be easy because, again, I think that Boston series will be tough for them, but they should be able to get back there. And then, Dexter, the conference finals against the Pistons, assuming
if they get there,
assuming the Pistons get there, I think that would be a very interesting series from a number of reasons. One, the Pistons pushed y'all last year to 6, and they were playoff neophytes. And I don't know about you, but when I watched those Pistons-Knicks games this year, the Pistons showed up to those games with some attitude, like, "Yo, man, F these dudes." All right, like,
and the Knicks showed up with no fight, which was disappointing.
And they had a level of bully ball to them. And listen, the thing about being young is you full of you know what, and you
sometimes you don't know any better,
and you don't know better. And listen, I'm just gonna say this: many people would favor the Knicks to win that series. I will just say, if the bright lights do not bother the Pistons, I would not be surprised if they beat the Knicks, because there is a level of want to that they have, and there is a level of shot making that they have, particularly behind Cade Cunningham. There's a lot to like about this team. That's all I'm saying. I'm not predicting the Pistons are going to win the NBA championship. None of that.
Right.
Shit, they may lose in the second round for all I know. All I'm saying is a Pistons-Knicks series may not be the walkover that Knicks fans think it would be.
I don't think it will be a walkover. Here's what but I love a term that you use there. I think, you know what I think that series comes down to? 2 words you said, want to.
Yeah.
Because I think that this year in the regular season, the Pistons showed all the want to. That they were mad that the Knicks bumped them out the playoffs, Jalen Brunson crossing up Asor Thompson, Jaying him in game 6, all that good stuff. The Knicks got swept 3-0. And it wasn't in this season, regular season. And this wasn't like, oh, man, they lost one game by 4, they lost another by 8, and another by 12.
They got spanked.
No, they got spanked. The Pistons came, and what I didn't like is somebody covers the team. There was no pushback.
Yeah.
There was no fight back. I didn't see that. Now, the playoffs are a different game.
For sure.
And to your point, there's experience, and the lights would get a little bit brighter in the conference finals, a place the Pistons haven't been, and the Knicks have been, and all that good stuff. But here's what I'm saying. At the end of the day, if that happens and they get there, and I'll remember this and we'll have Jarod back on. If that happens, and if the Knicks are going to win that series, it's going to be about their want to get back for what that team did to them in the regular season. Yeah. That is going to be a gut check moment for even them. Where's your pride? Like an old Mobb Deep song, where your heart at? That's what we're looking at, right? Where your heart at? And that's what that's going to be about. But you know what that's good for? That makes for great playoff basketball.
Oh,
that's what you want.
That's what we want. And it will also depend on what was the round like before for the Knicks getting to the conference finals. Did they have to go through 7 to get through the Celtics? Right? Yep. These are the things, right? So it's all, and so let's say they do all that. And if somehow somebody other than OKC or Denver get out of the West, then I think you have to favor the Knicks to win the championship.
Ooh, this is I want to let people know. Jarod is my good friend. We hang out and talk off of this. This is maybe, I'm not saying you're saying this. This is as optimistic as I've heard about Jarod with the Knicks Yeah. Maybe ever, as long as I've known him. So
listen, I'm a truth teller. And again, this squad is forged in the fire, right? This is year 3 for this crew together. Cat, again, only year 2 in the postseason for him. But, 4 out of the last 5 years, they made the playoffs, 2 years in a row, the conference semis, conference finals last year. Like, they are battle tested. Again, what I worry about is what we talked about earlier in the show. Are they too over line on Jalen? Can he hold up the entire postseason? Do you work in enough Cat, right? Can the other guys get enough shots to make it matter? Josh Hart, is he decisive? Like, will Mike Brown be malleable enough to do what needs to be done, right? These are the things, right? That, again, and will they have some luck break their way, and will they be able to take advantage of that luck? Last thing I'll say, Dex, is that
go ahead.
People don't think about luck at all when it comes to winning, and that's a mistake, because luck plays an integral part in every team winning a championship. Now, listen to what I'm saying, fans. I know people don't like nuance, don't like to understand. I'm not saying teams are lucky when they win. I'm saying that things break in their favor, and they then take advantage of the breaks that go in their favor, right? You have to be good enough for it to matter. We talked about the Wizards and the Nets. They can have all the luck in the world. They still stink, okay? It don't matter. They still stink. You have to be good enough for the luck to actually matter and take advantage of it. And if things break right, this team is good enough, I believe, to take advantage of it.
I think that's fair. I think that's some good truth. I think it's a way to look at this Knicks 2025-2026 season, where they stand going to the playoffs. You know, we had to give y'all the truth. What's going on?
Always.
That's my guy, Jarod Hector. Check him out with TrueHoop. They do a great job covering basketball. They're going to give you the truth. There's no lies here. That's not what we're supposed to do in journalism. We're supposed to bring the truth to the light. And that's what we're trying to do here. Jarod, I don't know about you. I'm just happy that the playoffs are here. I know that is a lot of long nights of basketball watching for us. Not that we are complaining, because I'm not doing that. Blessed to be able to watch the basketball and then talk about it. We'll see how far the Knicks go. Knicks will have a very interesting matchup against the Hawks. We've got a lot more coming up later this week on New York Got Game around that. But that is my guy, Jarod Hector. Again, as I said, check him out again on TrueHoop. I'm Dexter Henry. We'll catch you next time on another edition of New York Got Game. Peace.
And thanks for watching New York Got Game. Boom shakalaka.